Welcome, Vault Hunters, to the Deep Dive. Today, we are launching ourselves headfirst onto a planet just teeming with anarchy, impossible guns, and a really, really dark sense of humor. We're talking Borderlands 2.
Yeah, Borderlands 2, BL2. Came out back in 2012, Gearbox Software, and it pretty quickly became more than just a sequel people liked. I mean, lots of folks see it as the game that really locked down what a looter shooter is.
Defined the whole genre. Really.
Exactly. And its staying power is just kind of nuts. We're talking shipped over 20 million units by 2019. Estimates now put it way over 30 million by like 2025. And even 8 years after launch, it still had around 1 million people playing every month.
That kind of longevity, it's incredible.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder, right? Was it just brilliant design, pure innovation? Or was it maybe just having the budget to throw everything at the wall?
That's the core question, yeah.
So our mission today in this deep dive is to unpack how BL2 hit that benchmark status. We really want to dig into that tension, you know? The clash between the kind of goofy, sometimes really crude humor, and the absolutely brutal difficulty it throws at you, especially later on. And of course, the design thinking behind it all.
Right. So just to set the scene for you, the player, if you haven't jumped in, it's an action RPG mixed right in with a first-person shooter. Think RPG depth, but all the fighting is real-time FPS.
That core loop, shoot, level up, grab loot, repeat.
That's the heart of it. You're exploring this big kind of semi-open world, doing main quests, side quests, loads of side quests. You can go it alone, or, and this is key, play co-op.
Up to 4 players usually.
Yep, 4 players on the main platforms. The poor old Vita version that only managed 2, but still. The co-op was a huge part of the appeal.
And the thing that really put looter shooter on the map, the absolutely insane arsenal, the whole billion guns promise, it was just chaos, right?
Yeah.
But maybe we should back up before we get lost in the guns. How did they even get to make something this big?
Good point. Let's start there. Section 1. The design thesis from sleeper hit to blockbuster stakes. Because the first Borderlands, like you said, was a bit of a sleeper hit, unexpected success.
Which gave Gearbox some serious clout.
Exactly. Leverage. So for the sequel, the budget just ballooned. Estimates are around 30, maybe $35 million. And that money, well, it immediately meant they could just think bigger, much bigger scope, way more content.
And you can see where that money went straight away. I mean, the biggest knock on the first game was probably the environments, wasn't it? Just
right.
Brown. Lots and lots of brown desert.
Oh, absolutely. That was top the list for feedback. So with BL2, they poured resources into visual and environmental diversification. That was critical.
So no more endless desert.
Not at all. You get Arctic areas, icy tundras, these dangerous grassy highlands, weird iridian caverns filled with glowing stuff, humid swamps too, Agris swamp.
And it wasn't just about looking pretty, right? There was a design reason behind it.
Yeah, definitely. The idea was to make these places feel dense and alive, to make you want to explore off the main path. If everywhere looks the same, why bother wandering, you know?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Some more color, more variety. It's basically a psychological nudge to keep players engaged, keep them exploring Pandora and make it feel like a real vibrant, dangerous place.
And they stuck with that core art style, the concept art style, they called it.
Yeah.
That mix of realistic textures with the thick black comic book outlines. But yeah, just infused with way more color.
And that freedom apparently extended to the characters, too. I read something about Xur, the assassin.
Ah, yeah, Xur's a great example of that internal creative freedom and maybe a bit of tension. His design, you know, super sleek, kind of robotic ninja, digital face display, high-tech sword. It was apparently pretty controversial internally.
Really? Why? He looks awesome.
Well, some folks in upper management supposedly felt he didn't quite fit the established Borderlands vibe. You know, the kind of junkyard, cobbled-together look of the first game's characters. They worried he was too sleek, too different.
But he made it in.
He did. The art director apparently pushed back hard, argued that Xur's unique look was exactly what the series needed. It showed evolution, right? Something new. It was a gamble, but it paid off, showed they were willing to trust their creative teams.
Okay, so visuals upgraded, creative freedom. What else did that bigger budget buy? Because sequels often live or die on fixing the first game's annoyances.
Quality of life improvements, QL.
Yeah.
Huge focus there. And yeah, directly based on player feedback from Borderlands 1. That's always a good sign. They polished up the user interface, which, let's be honest, needed it with all the loot and stats. Made menus easier to handle.
I thank God for that. And the co-op stuff.
Big improvements there, too. Remember, in the first game, if you had 4 players, you only had 2-seater vehicles.
Yeah, someone always had to run behind or grab another car and split the party.
Exactly. So they introduced the 4-passenger vehicle. Simple fix, massive difference for team cohesion. Everyone sticks together. And they changed the loot system, too. Went for a shared loot option, so it wasn't just a mad scramble where whoever clicked fastest got the good stuff. More collaborative.
That definitely reduces arguments.
Yeah.
But wasn't there another big system, something?
Yeah.
Account-wide?
Ah, yes. The badass rank system. Possibly the single most brilliant piece of meta design in the whole game. It's genius.
Okay, break that down. How did badass rank actually work?
So, scattered throughout the game are hundreds of little challenges. Things like get X number of headshots, kill Y number of this specific enemy type, deal Z amount of fire damage, little milestones.
Right, like achievements, but more integrated.
Way more integrated. Because completing these challenges wasn't just for bragging rights. Each one you finished gave you a badass token. And these tokens, you could spend them to get tiny, permanent, percentage-based increases to your core stats. Things like gun damage, max health, shield recharge delay, reload speed, like dozens of options. And crucially, these bonuses applied to every single character on your account. Forever.
Whoa. Okay, that is smart. So even if I'm grinding on my Siren, I'm also making my future commando just a little bit stronger.
Precisely. It's this constant background feeling of progression. It rewards you for just playing the game, trying different things, using different weapons. It encourages experimentation. And it means even if you hit a wall with one character, the time you spent wasn't wasted. It feeds back into your entire Borderlands experience.
That's a powerful hook. It guarantees that feeling of always moving forward, always getting stronger, even across multiple playthroughs. It basically built retention right into the core mechanics, which players needed because the core mechanics themselves, well, they were built around chaos, the arsenal of chaos.
Nicely put. Let's move into that. Section 2. The core tension gameplay and the arsenal of chaos. Because, yeah, that billion guns thing from the first game, it sounded cool, but the reality was a lot of them felt kind of interchangeable. That was the big problem they had to solve.
So how did they fix the weapon monotony?
Yeah.
Just making them look different wasn't enough.
Right. This is where that budget and design focus really shines. They didn't just randomize stats on generic gun models. They built distinct identities for each weapon manufacturer, both visually and critically mechanically. It wasn't just about finding a gun with bigger numbers. It was about finding the brand you liked. Brand loyalty became a thing.
Ah, like finding your favorite car maker or something.
Kinda, yeah. They did it by giving each manufacturer a specific pool of parts, barrels, grips, sights, stocks that only they could use. So a Jacobs pistol always looked and felt like a Jacobs, whether it was common white rarity or legendary orange.
Jacobs. Those were the Wild West looking ones, right? Lots of wood grain, kind of steampunk vibe.
Yeah.
Yep. And their whole deal was raw power, massive damage per shot. Their tagline was literally, if it took more than one shot, you weren't using a Jacobs. Players got really attached to specific Jacobs guns known for just deleting enemies, like the law pistol you mentioned or the muck-a-muck sniper. Huge critical hits. They felt weighty, impactful.
Okay, so Jacobs is raw power. What about Tedior? They were the weird ones.
Yeah, Tedior, the throwaway brand. Their guns look cheap, almost like plastic toys sometimes, bright colors, inspired by like disposable lighters.
And the gimmick was you threw the gun.
You threw the whole gun. Instead of reloading, your character chucks the empty weapon and it explodes like a grenade. The more bullets left in the clip when you threw it, the bigger the boom. It totally changes how you manage ammo and reloads. Super unique.
That sounds hilarious and potentially dangerous. Okay, who else? Torgue. Mr. Torgue. Yes. Explosions. Their design was all muscle cars, engine blocks, that kind of aggressive, chunky look. And their gameplay identity was simple. Everything explodes. Every single bullet fired from a Torgue gun is gyroscopically stabilized to explode on impact. No exception.
Just pure, unadulterated chaos. No wonder they got their own DLC later.
Absolutely. And you had others too, like Maliwan focusing purely on elemental damage, Dahl being the more tactical burst fire brand. Each had a really strong defined role. So even with billions of guns generated, you could quickly recognize a brand and know roughly what it would do. It brought order to the loot chaos.
Okay, so the tools of destruction were varied and interesting. What about the people wielding them, the Vault Hunters? Were they just blank slates?
Not at all. The 4 base game characters, Axton, Maya, Zura, and Salvador, were highly specialized. Choosing one was a real commitment to a specific playstyle. You couldn't really be a jack of all trades.
So Axton was the soldier type.
Axton the commando, yeah. Very reliable. His action skill drops the saber turret, this deployable autogun. You could upgrade it with shields, rockets, even twin barrels. Solid damage output, great for drawing enemy fire away from you. Your classic trooper.
And Maya the Siren, she was more about control.
Exactly. Maya's skill was phase lock. She could trap a single enemy in this floating energy bubble, taking them out of the fight temporarily. But her skill trees let you customize it massively, make it chain damage to nearby enemies, pull enemies towards the bubble, even heal allies or turn phase-locked enemies into temporary friends. Lots of crowd control potential.
Then you had the trickier ones. Zurda the Assassin. He seems complex.
Very high skill ceiling on Zuru. His skill, Deception, made him invisible and deployed a hologram decoy. The key was using that invisibility window to line up a perfect shot or melee strike, because your first attack coming out of stealth got a massive damage boost. You could specialize in sniping for huge criticals or get right in there with his sword for melee mayhem. Timing and precision were everything.
And finally, Salvador, the Gunzerker, just dual-wielding everything.
Pretty much. Salvador was described in sources as a raging slab of muscle and testosterone. His skill let him pull out any two guns, and just go nuts. Dual rocket launchers.
Yep.
Dual sniper rifles. Sure, why not? It was sheer, glorious overkill.
That sounds potentially broken.
Oh, it could be. Certain combinations were incredibly powerful, but you needed the right skills from his trees to survive while doing it. He was all about overwhelming firepower, just pure aggression.
And the catch was you really had to commit to one character style because the skill trees were so deep, right? You couldn't max everything out.
Not even close. 3 distinct trees per character, and you had to make hard choices about where to invest your skill points as you leveled up. It forced specialization. You really had to build your character.
Okay, so you've got your specialized character, your preferred brand of gun, but then the game throws another layer of complexity at you with elemental damage.
Ah, yes, the elemental stakes. This wasn't just optional flair. Understanding the damage types was mandatory, especially as the difficulty ramped up. It created this constant strategic tension.
You couldn't just stick with one gun type because enemies had different health bars, different colors.
Right. 3 main types you had to worry about constantly. Red health bars meant flesh, biological enemies. They burned easily, so fire damage was your best friend. Yellow bars meant armor robots, heavily armored cyclers. Acid or corrosive damage melted through that. And blue bars, those were energy shields. Shock damage ripped through shields like nobody's business.
So it was like rock, paper, scissors, but with guns. You had to constantly swap weapons based on who you were fighting.
Exactly. You needed a loadout that could handle all 3, or you'd find yourself doing practically 0 damage against certain enemies. But then they added a 4th element, a weird one. Slag.
Slag. Okay, I remember hearing complaints about Slag. What did it actually do?
Slag itself did very little damage, but if you hit an enemy with it, they get covered in this purple goo effect. And while they were purple, they took massively increased damage, like triple damage from any other non-slag source for a few seconds.
Triple damage, that sounds really strong.
It was really strong. And that leads us right into the big point of contention, what people call the endgame wall. See, after you beat the game once, you unlock True Vault Hunter mode, TVHM, beat that, and you unlock Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, UVHM.
And UVHM is where things got rough.
Extremely rough. Difficulty spikes hard. Enemies get way more health, they regenerate health, the level cap goes way up, they become serious bullet sponges.
Okay.
And here's the kicker. In UVHM, Slag basically became mandatory. Remember that triple damage multiplier? Well, enemy health scaled so high that if you didn't slag them first, your damage output felt pathetic. It wasn't just helpful anymore, it was practically required.
So the sources say people found this annoying.
Hugely annoying. Widely criticized, because it forced this constant, tedious 2-step process for almost every single enemy. Step 1. Hit them with a slag weapon or grenade. Step 2. Quickly swap to your main fire corrosive shock weapon and unload before the slag wears off, then repeat, over and over.
That does sound like it would break the flow of combat.
Yeah.
Constant weapon juggling just to do decent damage.
Yeah. Many players felt it wasn't adding strategic depth, just tedium. An arbitrary requirement, some called it. It's a really interesting design choice in retrospect. A mechanic meant to encourage weapon diversity ended up forcing everyone into one specific repetitive action loop at the highest level.
So if the end game could be that frustrating, why did people stick with it? Why is it still so beloved despite that major criticism?
One huge reason, the story.
And Handsome Jack, let's transition. Section 3, the narrative stakes humor, heartbreak, and Handsome Jack. Because the writing, the characters, the plot, this is where BL2 took a gigantic leap forward from the first game.
People really connected with the story this time. Massively. The script was apparently 7 times longer than the original. The writer, Anthony Birch, made a conscious effort to deliver a compelling and unique narrative. And crucially, most of it unfolds through in-world dialogue, audio logs, character interactions. Not long, boring cutscenes that pull you out of the action.
Keep the player playing, keep the story coming.
Exactly. And they weren't afraid to get dark. Birch talked about deliberately including dark moments to subvert expectations and keep you invested, even amongst all the absurdity.
But wasn't that a risk? I mean, Borderlands is known for its humor, sometimes really juvenile humor. Did the jokes undercut the serious moments?
That's the tightrope they walked, and somehow, mostly, they pulled it off. The humor was, sharp sources called it one of the funniest scripts since Portal 2. But the core narrative, the stuff about betrayal and loss, had real weight. It anchored the whole thing.
Like Roland's death. That came out of nowhere.
Totally shocking. And according to the team, a very deliberate decision. They felt the story needed those irreversible consequences, those moments where the jokes stop, to give the player real motivation, to make the fight against Jack feel genuinely personal.
Jack. We have to talk about Handsome Jack. Played by Damian Clark, right? People still rave about him as a villain.
Oh, absolutely. He's consistently ranked among the best villains, not just in games, but like pop culture generally. He's CEO of the Hyperion Corporation, rules Pandora from his giant H-shaped space station, Helios.
And he's just an ass.
The perfect charismatic douche, as the writers intended. The key is he genuinely, truly believes he's the hero. He sees Pandora as this chaotic mess, and he's the handsome, smart, rich guy who's going to bring order, even if it means being utterly ruthless. He's not cartoonishly evil, he's terrifyingly narcissistic.
But how do they balance that with the humor? Didn't he just become a joke himself?
That was the genius. He constantly calls you, taunts you, insults you over the echo communicator, calls you bandits, morons, piss for brains, tells ridiculous stories like buying a diamond pony called Butt Stallion just because he could. It's hilarious.
Okay.
But then in the next breath, he orders something truly horrific or reveals a deeply cruel motivation. His personality flips from mocking and dismissive to intensely, personally vengeful once you start messing up his plans, especially concerning his daughter, Angel.
Right, the Angel storyline was central.
Hugely central. It grounds his character, and his famous lines just perfectly capture that mix of arrogant humor and genuine menace. He completely carries the campaign. Without him constantly goading you, motivating you, the game could have felt like just a series of fetch quests. But Jack makes it personal.
And the story kicks off with that personal betrayal immediately, doesn't it?
Yep. You, the new Vault Hunters, are hired by Jack, lured onto a train, which he then blows up, leaving you for dead in a frozen wasteland. Instant motivation. Find Jack, make him pay. You team up with the original Vault Hunters, Roland, Lilith, Brick, Mordecai, who are now leading the Crimson Raiders' resistance against him.
And the whole Guardian Angel thing from the first game gets turned on its head.
Big twist there, the helpful voice guiding you. Turns out she's Angel, Jack's daughter, and she's a siren, one of those rare, powerful individuals. Jack has her imprisoned, hooked up to machines, forcibly using her powers to charge up this ancient vault key using iridium, this alien element that's surfacing all over Pandora.
It's pretty dark.
It gets darker. Angel realizes Jack's plan is to use the charged key to awaken this ultimate Iridian superweapon called the Warrior, hidden in the main vault. The only way to stop him, she asks you, the player, and Roland, to kill her, to destroy her life support.
Wow. Heavy stuff for a game with Claptrap dancing around.
Right. And you do it. You fulfill her request, killing Jack's daughter right in front of him, essentially. And his reaction, that's when he snaps.
That's when Roland dies.
Immediately after Angel's death, Jack just appears, shoots Roland point blank, kills the leader of the resistance, and then kidnaps Lilith, another siren, whose powers have been amplified by all the iridium to force her to finish charging the key. It's brutal. High stakes, real consequences happening right alongside jokes about poop trains.
Yeah.
It shouldn't work, but somehow it does.
A lot of that must come down to the supporting cast delivering the humor and keeping things moving.
Absolutely crucial. Characters like the mechanic Scooter, his sister Ellie, the posh hunter Sir Hammerlock, and especially Tiny Tina, voiced by Ashley Birch, Anthony's sister, actually.
Tiny Tina. Everyone loves Tiny Tina.
Yeah.
Loves his kid.
Yep. Her hyperactive, slightly unhinged personality provides a lot of the comedy, but there's that undercurrent of tragedy because her parents were experimented on and killed by Hyperion. That comes out later, especially in the DLC. But yeah, the whole cast is just memorable and keeps the energy high.
You get those iconic lines, too, like Mr. Torgue yelling about explosions on the radio.
That sentence had too many syllables. Apologize.
Or Claptrap's sad little opening lines about having no friends.
Or they would if any of them were still alive, or had existed in the first place. It just sets the tone perfectly.
It sounds like the writing really carried a lot of weight. I heard Anthony Birch even said later he regretted making the player characters silent.
Yeah, he felt they seemed a bit out of place next to all these loud, quirky NPCs,
Yeah.
which is why they eventually added those character-specific audio logs, the echo logs, to give the playable Vault Hunters more backstory and personality after the fact. It just shows how important that narrative investment became.
And that commitment continued well after the main game shipped, right? Which brings us to the expansions.
Exactly, Section 4. Endurance and expansion, the long tail of content. This is maybe the final crucial piece of the puzzle for why BL2 had such staying power. Gearbox's post-launch support was, for its time, pretty incredible.
They had that season pass model, but the DLCs were substantial, weren't they?
Huge. They released 4 major campaign add-ons roughly every 4 months or so. That consistent drip feed of significant high-quality content kept people playing for years. It wasn't just map packs. These were like mini sequel.
Or the main ones. I remember Pirates.
Yep. First up was Captain Scarlet and her pirate's booty. Big desert area, pirate theme, sand skiffs instead of cars, lots of backstabbing humor, added new enemies, raid bosses. Solid start.
And then Torgue?
Mr. Torgue's campaign of carnage. All centered around this gladiatorial tournament run by the super macho, explosion-obsessed Mr. Torgue, fighting in the badass crater of badassitude to win access to a vault. Pure, distilled Borderlands insanity and probably the funniest of the bunch.
Were they all hits?
Mostly. The third one, Sir Hammerlock's big game hunt, was generally seen as the weakest. Took you to a new swamp continent, Agris, hunting giant creatures. Some people found the map layout and enemies a bit frustrating, but then they bounced back hard with the last one.
Ah, the famous one. Tiny Tina's.
Tiny Tina's assault on Dragon Keep. Universally acclaimed. Still held up as one of the best DLCs ever made for any game. The whole thing is framed as a game of bunkers and badasses. Their version of D&D with Tiny Tina as the dungeon master.
So, fantasy setting within Borderlands. Skeletons, dragons.
All of that. But it was more than just a fun genre shift. It used the B&B game as this incredible narrative device for Tina to process her grief over Roland's death. It starts funny and chaotic, but it gets genuinely moving, emotional closure for her and for the players too.
Wow, that sounds really ambitious. No wonder it eventually spun off into its own game, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands.
Exactly. Its success was massive. And even after the main 4 DLCs, they kept adding smaller things. These Headhunter packs came out shorter, cheaper, holiday-themed adventures like a Thanksgiving one, a Christmas one, kept the game alive between bigger releases.
And didn't they do something really surprising years later, like bridging to Borderlands 3?
They did. 7 years after BL2 launched, just before BL3 came out, they dropped Commander Lilith and the Fight for Sanctuary, a totally free DLC for existing owners initially. It served as a narrative bridge, showing what happened to Sanctuary and the Crimson Raiders right before the next game started. A pretty unprecedented move, really.
Plus, they had that shift code system running the whole time.
Right, the shift rewards. The Gearbox would release codes online through social media or whatever. You redeem the code in-game, and you get golden keys. These keys open a special chest in the main hub city, Sanctuary, which always contains high-quality purple or even legendary gear scaled to your current level.
So constant incentive to check back in, keep an eye on the community, and get some guaranteed good loot.
Exactly. It's this combination, really.
Yeah.
The deep character building, the badass rank making all playtime feel valuable, the sheer volume of high-quality campaign content from the DLCs, and the constant trickle of rewards from Shift. It all added up to make BL2 feel endlessly replayable for a huge number of people. Explains the crazy sales and why people were still playing it religiously years and years later.
So summing it all up, what are the key takeaways? Why did Borderlands 2 hit so hard and last so long?
Well, I think it boils down to a few core things they really nailed. First, they committed to the narrative. They made the story matter, balancing that wild humor with genuine stakes and emotion. Second, Handsome Jack. They created an absolutely iconic, complex villain who players love to hate. He elevated the whole experience.
The gameplay itself too, right?
Definitely. The deep character customization through the skill trees, combined with making the weapon manufacturers feel truly distinct. It made the looting and shooting genuinely engaging and varied. And finally, yeah, that post-launch support. The sheer amount of quality DLC kept the world alive and expanding for years. It set a benchmark for content delivery.
It's this strange brew, isn't it? Utter chaos, crude jokes, frustrating difficulty spikes. But underneath, there's this compelling story about loss, revenge, and power, all driven by one unforgettable antagonist and fueled by endless guns.
Yeah, and speaking of power and stakes, think about the very end. The whole story, all the chaos, it revolves around Iridium, sirens like Angel and Lilith, and the power locked inside these ancient vaults. After Jack and the Warrior are finally defeated, Lilith tries to destroy the Vault Key, the thing that caused all the problems.
I mean, she fails, right? It does something else.
She doesn't destroy it, she accidentally activates it. It projects this huge galactic map showing the locations, not just of the one vault on Pandora, but of several other vaults, scattered across different planets all throughout the galaxy.
Oh, wow. So the end isn't really the end.
Not at all. Lilith looks at this map, thinks about the hell they just went through on Pandora because of one vault, and she says that line, "There ain't no rest for the wicked."
Chilling, considering what they just faced.
Exactly. It reframes everything. If unlocking one vault led to a tyrant like Jack and nearly doomed a whole planet, what happens when the locations of all these other vaults are suddenly known? What kind of horrors, what other would-be Jacks might be lurking out there, waiting for someone to come looking for that ultimate power? The Pandora problem just went galactic. What kind of chaos does that unleash on the universe?